A desolate floor within an unknown tower spreads far around a group of 11 people, forcibly pulled from their daily life. As far as they can figure, they're all from the same planet. Before they can discuss much further, a fairy-like girl appears and tells them to prepare for a fight, because the master is about to open a space-time rift. When questioned, the fairy introduces herself as Ysel, the manager of the place. The mercenary Mormont charges the fairy with his sword drawn after she avoids answering his questions. Unfortunately for Mormont, Ysel's role as manager is more than just a title, and he is beheaded without any sign of a weapon having struck him before he can do anything. According to a system-like message, his cause of death is suicide from stress. Soon after, the unseen master prompts a new window to appear as he forms a party of 5 with the people that the system calls heroes. Shortly after the party is formed, the fairy opens the space-time rift and urges the people into the rift that appears, under the threat of ending up like Mormont. Before they can enter though, Ysel, the self-introduced farmer, asks the fairy to have the master summon weapons because everyone there is just a 1-star, and sending them in without something to fight with would be the same as having them commit suicide. Persuaded, the fairy agrees with Han and asks the master through the system to summon equipment for a better battle. While the master performs a 10 times weapon summoning, one of the others asks Han what he knows about the place, but he reveals he knows little more than they do, just saying that they will die in battle if they're too slow. The group of 5 enters the rift while protesting that they don't know how to fight. Meanwhile, Han examines an E+ rank crude wooden shield. While Jenna tries to ask him what's going on, more system messages announce the deaths of the party members that entered the rift, accompanied by a "you lose" message. Next, the master creates another party with Han, Jenna, and the others waiting with them before sending them into the rift as well. Upon entering the rift, the group finds the primary objective of the main dungeon: climb the tower, save the world. And they are also revealed to be on floor 0. The main dungeon's door opens, and the group suddenly finds themselves in the middle of what the system announces as floor 1. They're given a quest type and objective for the floor as well: a subjugation quest to eliminate all enemies, which, on this floor, are goblins. All of the party members other than Han find themselves with a frightened effect which decreases their stats by 30%, and the 3 besides Han and Jenna try to run before hitting an invisible wall. Jenna reveals that her father was a hunter and that she can shoot a bow, and Han takes the lead role in fighting up close so that she can shoot the goblins. As it turns out, Ysel's real name is Han Sojin, and he believes he was sucked into an RNG game. Pick Me Up, a mobile game published by the Mobius Corp game studio with the simple goal of raiding a 100-level tower with heroes that you can support by producing materials and building up their base camp. And it's the game that Han Sojin was sucked into. We get a look at Han's life the day before he was sucked into the game, where he reads the announcement of an Advent dungeon opening at the end of an event. Han was truly unlucky with the game in that, while regular hero ranks went from a single star to 7 stars, he never received a hero with a starting rank of anything above 5 stars. While Pick Me Up is supposedly just another game, what differentiates it from similar games is that characters permanently go away when they die. Han anticipates at least seeing the boss's patterns while the party begins to panic, but begins to question if the encounter is bugged when the boss has a garbled name and is shown as being level 999. The party is wiped out and he receives a "you lose" message. Then, when the game should have closed out, the boss glares at him and sends a message, "Found you," before Han is sucked into the game and sees the account creation process for the person who will end up being his master, who chooses the account name of Whatever. Whatever initiates the tutorial sequence, and Han finds himself in a burning village as the game introduces his character, Ysel, the land of Taunir, and the objective of climbing the tower with heroes. So begins a tutorial quest to defeat the goblins that invaded the village. Han succeeds in killing a goblin that charges at him and clears the tutorial, leveling up in the process. The next step of the tutorial, summoning, is introduced, and the master is prompted to summon with a free premium summon, resulting in the super rare 4-star hero Shay. The next step of the tutorial, party formation, has the master create a party with Han and Shay before sending them into a dungeon where Shay does almost all of the work. Finally, the tutorial's last stage introduces synthesis, a way to make heroes stronger. Han realizes he's screwed with how synthesis works, and Ysel the fairy appears and tries to urge them into the synthesis room. Han tells Ysel about how he's actually from Earth and isn't Ysel, and while the fairy shows frustration at what shouldn't be possible, she tosses him into the synthesis room anyway. Synthesis begins, and one of the heroes is sacrificed to make another stronger. In a rare stroke of luck, Han finds that the master sacrificed Shay, the 4-star hero, into him, a 1-star hero. Flashing back to the present, we find Han, Jenna, and their party in combat with the first floor goblins. Han and Jenna succeed in killing the goblins, and Han, the previous 5th ranked in the world under the username Loki, the Master of Masters, vows to survive until the end. Since heroes can only die through combat and synthesis, Han has resolved to train himself so that he can be as useful as possible as a 1-star hero in order to avoid synthesis and hopefully rank up. Upon seeing him train so hard, Jenna also resolves to not be a hindrance and begins to train as well, and a friendship bonus is created between Han and Jenna after he agrees to help her. Han calls the fairy, Ysel, and confirms that he's the only one to see the game's messages and the levels above people's heads. The master hasn't logged in during the past week. Could it be that they quit the game after accidentally synthesizing the 4-star hero into Han? Even if the master wanted to, they couldn't reset the game because it's linked to the phone. Han antagonizes the fairy for information and learns that time flows differently in the game than it does on Earth, and that the fairy can only directly interfere when someone attacks her or when an order from the master is rejected. As another day passes in the game, Han finds out that his necessities and food are refilled at the end of each day, and that while training does not increase stats or levels, it can give new skills and refine existing abilities. The master finally logs back into the game and starts another free summoning. Jenna and Han rush to grab weapons before the master sends them and the new heroes back into the space-time rift. When the monsters attack, Jenna and the new heroes fall under the frightened status before Han snaps her out of it and directs her to handle the 2 goblins while he handles the wolves. With the second floor being cleared, the master logs out, and Han figures that the master is going to try a floor a day in Earth time, which would give the heroes 3 days of time between each floor. While the other new 1-star heroes complain about their situation and don't try to improve themselves, Han tells Jenna to ignore them because they'll vanish soon anyway. One of the newcomers tries to grab and confront Han, but is quickly put in his place while Han berates him over his inaction during the fight. Jenna and Han continue training the next day, and the other 3 heroes pointlessly continue looking for a way out, unable to accept their situation. Wanting to get even stronger, Han has Jenna train with him and receives the pain resistance skill after getting hit in the leg by an arrow. His leg heals the moment he removes the arrow, and he has Jenna continue firing her arrows at him as he practices blocking, and receives the beginner sword and shield proficiency skill. On the 3rd day, the master logs back in and sure enough sends them to floor 3, another subjugation quest against goblins with improved gear and tactic. Jenna and Han clear out the enemies while the other 3 heroes remain inactive, and the master has them clear the 1st and 3rd floors again for the rewards. After a few clears, the master begins synthesis again, spelling the doom of the 3 heroes who refuse to be helpful in fights or otherwise. One of the disobedient heroes is synthesized into Jenna, giving her the Hawkeye skill, and another is synthesized into Han, giving him the composure skill, leaving only one of the disobedient heroes alive. With this, Jenna begins to understand how important it is to remain useful if they don't want to die. The next day, Jenna reaffirms to Han her will to grow stronger with him, and the other hero Eren approaches them and apologizes while asking for training to become stronger. Han gives him a spear and explains party compositions before he begins a spar against him, telling him to learn how to fight for himself through practice. After the training is done, the master purchases the forge for 500 gems, and Han calls Ysel over and asks if she can use the internet, confirming that she's using a post from Loki as a base for her tips to the master. They discuss the fairy's admiration for Loki doing the impossible, and Han interrupts her, telling her that he is Loki. Of course, Ysel doesn't believe him at first, but Han quickly rattles off his old account number, which could have only been known by a server official or Loki himself. She confirms he's telling the truth and screams for his autograph shortly before she realizes she was being so cheeky with the Loki. Since he's here, he obviously can't be the master of his own world anymore, where he had named his hero's waiting room Nilfheim and had over 20,000 troops. They can't do much without him, and since Ysel is only a manager, she doesn't have the power to send him back or do much either. Though she can't answer who summoned him there or what he'll get upon clearing the tower, Ysel reveals that she can give advice, open and close facilities, and assist with autonomous activities. Han also realizes that the summoning system that supposedly created limitless heroes through quantum AI was all a lie. Back to training, Han observes that Jenna is a genius, and that Eren is a bit sluggish and has a decent probability of dying. He then takes Jenna to the warehouse and enters with Ysel's help, taking a few ingredients and having Ysel open the forge. Due to his odd existence, Han still sort of counts as a master and has access to master-specific options. Since the facilities are limited and there's no artisan or blueprint, Han receives a 3 times penalty on crafting, giving him an atrocious probability of success. He chooses to craft anyway with the manual system, and chooses Ultra Hell as the difficulty for the crafting minigame that's usually exclusive to Master. Han is given 3 minutes to assemble a sword from hundreds of puzzle piece cubes, succeeding with his legendary abilities as Loki and creating a well-forged longsword, with the rank of C-. After the longsword, Han crafts a C-rank balanced short bow, a C- rank sharp long spear, and a C rank solid steel shield, stopping there for fear of the Master noticing too much and misunderstanding Han's skill set. Not long later, the Master sends the 3 of them up to the 4th floor, where they face harpies and goblins. Eren briefly falls under the fear status as he wildly swings his spear around. but Jenna slaps him and quickly snaps him out of it, and they go on to kill the monsters and clear the stage. Though he fears being synthesized due to his poor performance, the Master registers Eren under favorites, at least guaranteeing his safety from synthesis for the time being. Returning his weapons for the day, Han thinks about the party he was the master of. Though they're limited by the loss of their master, Pick Me Up is still an idle game, so his designated submaster, Cyrus, should do fine on their own. Flashing briefly over to Han's old party, Urnet sees Cyrus off as she goes to investigate where their master is gone. The training grounds also reaches level 2, and a few of the armory buildings are combined together into the equipment workshop. Finally, the town square itself advances to level 2. Based on how the master is spending money on the game and the fixed times the master is active, Han comes to the conclusion that the master is probably an office worker. After the upgrades are complete, another 10 times summoning begins, and Han waits for them to exit the summoning room before pulling his sword on the man who questions who Han is and why they're there. Still being given no explanation, Ysel appears and asks anyone who is a carpenter, blacksmith, tanner, or cook to separate themselves from the group to work in the new facilities as non-combatants. With new facilities to run and an increased maximum number of heroes, the master begins to weed out the newly summoned 1-stars by sending them to level 1 of the tower, where 2 members of the first party quickly die. While the next party is preparing to enter, Eren announces he'll go with them to help them, prompting a request to the master, and he enters the party while Han warns him about going too overboard with his help. Jenna complains about the food as they wait, and Han explains that the bright sky shows that the master is watching them, but he can't hear their voices. A brief wait later, Eren exits the rift with the party he joined, relaying to Han that he understood the message and only killed a single goblin. They all head back to the residence together and remark on the improvements, including the cafeteria. But when the chef serves the food, they find just potatoes in front of them, and the self-claimed chef is revealed to have been lying about his skill set. The liar loses his position, and another of the heroes, Chloe, takes his place, revealing herself to live up to the title with a varied plate of food options all based on potatoes. Han explains the way the world works to everyone as they eat and tells them to relay the information to newcomers so that he doesn't have to again. New arrivals mean new people to train as well, and 3 of the newcomers show up for training the next day. While Han and Jenna show excellent results in training, Eren is lagging behind, though not due to lack of effort, and the 3 newcomers all obtain level 1 swordsmanship and form a close bond with each other. A few days later, the master performs another summoning, and Eren and the trio that showed up for training take care of all the explanations. While the growth is welcome, Jenna begins to wonder why the master hasn't attempted the 5th floor, though Han knows it's because the 5th floor and every 5 floors thereafter is a huge difficulty jump, and that the other members of the main party are yet to be decided. Han has Jenna and the others practice their formations on the 4th floor while he sits back, able to clear the floor on his own if he wanted. The master continues to log in more often and obtained a blacksmith and a tanner in the 2nd summoning, enough to activate the equipment workshop where the craftsmen produce mostly rank E swords and shields that they provide to the newcomers. Han and his group as the main party received higher ranked equipment, and the 3 overall lowest performers ended up synthesized, with the one who lied about being a chef among them. More days pass and the master makes a decision to go ahead with the 5th floor, sending Han and his party into the space-time rift. On the other side of the rift, they find themselves in an abandoned ruined city, empty of monsters and any other intelligent life. Though the quest goal is revealed, it's safe to assume that it isn't a subjugation. They find weathered corpses and dried bloodstains throughout the city, and Han has Jenna climb a nearby tower to look over the area. From her vantage point, Jenna spots a horde of goblins outside the city that's headed their way. With thousands of goblins approaching, Han figures out it's a survival mission and that they just have to survive for a set amount of time after initially clashing with the enemy. What Han doesn't reveal to the party is that a survival quest on the lower floors only has about a 9% survival rate. Running out of time, they take their positions in the center of a 3-way alley where Han has Zid and Hansen, 2 of the newcomers, taking care of the back entrance while Eren handles the right and he handles the left. Their plan is to fight in turn so that they can each get short rests, while Jenna stands in the center and saves her arrows. Han thinks over another secret he has not revealed to the party while they build makeshift barricades to prepare for the attack. Their survival mission lasts 30 minutes. Before they can even finish the barricades, the goblins attack, starting the countdown, and Han tells the group that they only need to make it for 10 minutes. Their survival mission continues, and Han eventually has Zid switch with Hansen. Han feels that he's low on stamina and understands that it must be worse for Zid and Hansen, who are unskilled and grow exhausted due to their inefficient movement. Taking that into account, Han uses as little movement as possible, aiming to kill 1 goblin with each strike. Even with his efficient movement strategy, the thousands of goblins pushing through the alleyways still cause constant stamina loss, and Han orders the 2 newbies to switch again. Since switching is the most dangerous part of their defense, Han orders Jenna to assist them with her arrows and regather them after shooting them. Eren wonders about the time limit, but Han reassures him and states that it has only been 5 minutes. Their defense begins to crumble when Zid loses a hand to a goblin, and Hansen has to switch with them again. Hansen defends while Jenna stops Zid's bleeding, but he's still needed in the fight after his wounds are treated, or else Hansen's stamina will run out and he will be overrun. His sword stops being effective as he defends, and Hansen switches out with Zid again to figure out what's wrong. While the swords are better than the ones the other parties get, Hansen finds out that his sword is so dull and damaged that it's little better than a club. Han tells him to just use whatever they can, even if they have to fight the goblins back using their swords as clubs, and then he orders Jenna to switch with Eren, yelling that they have just 3 minutes left. Their switch is short-lived, and Eren switches with Jenna after only around 10 seconds of resting. Another switch of Zid and Hansen, and Jenna is running out of arrows, though Han tells her just to shoot them all. They switch again, and Zid is stabbed in the stomach by a goblin, falling into a critical state. One of their members is down, their weapons are falling apart, Jenna is running out of arrows, and the others are facing exhaustion. Just how much longer can they keep this up? We hope you enjoy the story so far. Check out Pick Me Up if you'd like to see what happens next in Han's mission to clear the tower and return to Earth.